Welcome, everybody. It is Friday, March 8th. John Aravosis here with the Aravosis Report, coming to you live from Washington, D.C. How is everybody doing tonight? Hello, YouTubers. Let me get TikTok rolling here. There we go. Maybe we'll try something different and just start the show. Normally, I wait a couple minutes, but I'm thinking maybe it's better for me just to jump right in. I keep wanting to try that way instead, so I think that's what we're going to do. Well, you know what? We're going to wait 30 seconds maybe because TikTok is just launching right now. So let's do that. Hello, TikTokers, getting rolling right now. Welcome, YouTubers. Hey, everybody. So how's everybody doing? Hope we are well. This is the Aravosis Report, my nightly show I do Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern, where we talk about the latest news from Ukraine. Thank you, Mark Starr. Thank you, World. Both of you for the gift. Hello, Pepper in Belgium. Hey, Martin. Hey, everybody. So how is everybody doing tonight? We've got a lot of news today. Actually, maybe not a lot of news, but I can tell it's going to go long tonight. Thank you, Crazy American. There's a very interesting article. Thank you, Marcy, in Foreign Affairs magazine, actually. Thank you, Crazy American. So we're going to talk about that. It's got me worried. Thank you, Russell. I think Magical. I did see something from Magical, too. Another one from Crazy. Thank you, guys. Appreciate the gifts. So, yeah, I'm getting increasingly worried about Ukraine. Thank you, Succeed. And I think the Europeans are getting worried, too. Thank you, Jorge. Lotus. So many gifts. So many gifts. Thank you, Jacob. I appreciate you saying that. Best new show on TikTok. Well, best Ukraine news show, at least. Thank you for that. Anyway, so hello, guys. I'm going to just get rolling, I think. YouTube is live. Yep, YouTubers, I assume you can see me. I'm assuming. Everybody on YouTube. It always takes about 8 seconds for them to respond because there's a delay. YouTube folks, you do see me? Beep, 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 beep. Like I said, it's like a 7-second delay in case the YouTubers swear. I'm kidding. It's just a 7-second delay period. So Dawn says yes. Okay, some of you guys on TikTok. Okay, yep, the YouTubers see me. Okay. It's just you then, sadly, whoever that was that couldn't see me on YouTube. Sorry. Thank you, LWD. You know what's funny? That gift I don't see in my lineup. The kind of cool little, that thing you guys throw up there on the screen. The heart. Is that the, thank you, Addie, the join my team heart thing. Yeah, I've never, I don't, anyway, I can see it, but when I see it in my list of gifts, I don't see it. Thank you, Bryce. Anyway, so let me get rolling, guys. As I said, I'm John Aravosis. This is my show. We talk about the latest news from Ukraine. Just a reminder, tomorrow morning is our coffee talk, or our coffee talk, as I call it, for the TikTokers, where our wonderful subscribers, the folks who are our monthly subscribers on TikTok and on YouTube, you can subscribe on both services. Basically, you pay monthly to help support my work because I do this full time. But you guys can subscribe on there, and the paid monthly subscribers, I will do a special show tomorrow morning. I do it almost every Saturday morning with Vlad and Ukraine's beaming in tomorrow, and we'll do a special show at 11 a.m. Eastern time U.S. That's 11 a.m. Washington, D.C. or New York time, and I'll be on TikTok for all the TikTokers who subscribe. So thank you guys. Please join us. And on YouTube, excuse me, not YouTube, on Discord for all the YouTube, Ko-fi, Twitch, I'm forgetting YouTube. Oh, Discord. Discord, you can subscribe there as well. Thank you, James. So all of you guys. And thank you, by the way, for all you subscribers. I'm looking YouTubers. Today we've got Sally, Chris, Michael, wonderful Manda, Armad, Savannah, Bjorn. I think that might be it for the moment. I don't want to miss everybody. But thank you guys for being monthly subscribers. Thank you, Jorge, for the Galaxy. Very generous gift. And also close to my heart since I love astronomy. Thank you, Addie, Aflac with the duck. And on TikTok, just because I don't thank you guys enough, some of our monthly subscribers, Felicia, Jorge, let me look here. Beep, 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 beep. Well, Ash, who's a moderator as well. LWD, Blue Ariel, L, Marcy. Okay, I've got a lot. Flower Lady, Succeed, Doggy Dave. I don't want to miss people, but thank you guys, Flower Lady. I think it was Street Rat. Okay, I've got a lot of you there. Thank you guys, everybody, for subscribing. All right, and thank you for the gifts, James and Doggy and Elizabeth and some of the and Jorge with many gifts. All right, let me get rolling. So welcome, guys. Today is day 741 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation in Ukraine. Let me start with, I'm going to give a number of news stories that are happening today. Thank you, Bob, for the gift. And then there's a story in Foreign Affairs. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, John. An article in Foreign Affairs that I thought was very interesting. It's funny. I sent it to Vlad, and he goes, I think this is better for people who don't know the issue. And I was like, all right, the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians remind me of the Israelis sometimes. Like there's this very direct, boom when you talk to them. So Vlad thought the article was a little simplistic. I thought it was quite interesting. Foreign Affairs is, one of the oldest American foreign policy publications. Foreign Affairs and Foreign Policy are the big two sort of august, well-known foreign policy publications. And Dara Masakat wrote the story, or Dara, and she is a former Rand Corporation Russia analyst who now is at the Carnegie Endowment. So very interesting. Thank you, Charles. And she wrote a very interesting article about where things stand in Ukraine that I think is very troublesome and accurate. And I want to read some of it to you at the end of the show, or at the end of the news portion of the show. But first, let's talk first about these artillery shells that the Czech Republic is getting. I'm a little annoyed about this because the last few days, the news was put out there that most of the shells were paid for. Now, you might recall that, first of all, Ukraine has an artillery shell shortage. Russia has lots of artillery shells, right? And I will say, Michael, you're going to be leaving us because that's a troll comment. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Mario, by the way. The Russians have actually lots of artillery shells. They've gotten several million from the North Koreans, for example. They might have gotten artillery from Iran. I'm trying to remember that. But they've certainly got a lot for the North Koreans. And they've upped their production to I think it's 2 million a year or something like that. 2.3, something like that. But they've upped their production a lot. The Russians have. So Ukrainians have a shortfall. And the Czech Republic came up with this idea to go to the open market internationally and buy artillery shells for Ukraine. Well, we were told this week that they were buying our 800,000 shells. We were told this week that most of the money had been found, right? And we were very excited about that. And Ukraine, putting up my volume here. There we go for YouTube. That Ukraine might be able to get some of the shells in a few weeks. Today, we find out that actually enough money has only been raised for 300,000 of the 800,000 shells. I got news for you. 40 to 45% of the shells is not most of the shells. I'm a little pissed at whoever in NATO or the EU or whatever was releasing this information because that's bogus. Also, it takes pressure away from the other allies to help support the effort if you say, oh, we've already got the money. Because then the other countries go, okay, well, I guess we don't need to help, right? So that's not good. And 300,000 is pretty pathetic out of 800,000. At this point, we need to do this. We need to find the money for these weapons. This is absolutely ridiculous. In any case, Polish foreign minister, this was very interesting. So the Polish foreign minister, what is it? Radoslav, but I think it's Radek. Radek is his first name, Sikorski, who actually I met in Washington before the war. I met him at a party and we were talking. Very interesting man, very serious, smart and serious man. He said today that we should not discount, thank you, Adventures, we should not discount the possibility of NATO troops being put into Ukraine. Now, this is the Polish foreign minister. Let me read you what he said, and then I'm going to talk about what this means because there's something bigger going on here with this issue. We're hearing it from too many people. So here's what he said, the Polish foreign minister today. NATO forces present in Ukraine is not unthinkable. The presence of NATO forces in Ukraine is not unthinkable because it is about Putin being afraid, not us being afraid of Putin. He now, along with the Czech president, Pavel, along with, who is that, Ellie? Thank you, Ellie, for the gift, or Eli? Ellie, I think it's Ellie, for the gift. The Czech president, the Polish foreign minister, the French president, Macron, has now talked about this repeatedly, which is very interesting. And something's going on with this. For some reason, thank you, Ernie, for some reason, there is a movement, and I don't think this is a bad thing, but there is a movement now. My point is, something bigger is going on that we don't know about. And I think it's not just divisions within NATO. There's two things going on. One, there is clearly a number of NATO countries that want to put troops in Ukraine, whether they're non-combat or what. They want to put troops in Ukraine. Czech Republic, France, interestingly enough, France, because France has not exactly been very forward about military aid for Ukraine. France is actually very poor on the list of countries that have donated to Ukraine. France has given some very good things, like Scalp cruise missiles, artillery pieces, personnel carriers. But in terms of the overall money France has given, overall value it's given, France has given like $500 to $800 million of stuff to Ukraine. Thank you, Steve. Germany's given 19 billion with a B. Okay, and the economies aren't that different in size. That's not good. But France, anyway, I will say this: Macron, the president of France, has been very out front about the possibility of providing. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you, Mario. Thank you, Steve. About providing NATO troops to Ukraine, or let me say, fine, fair enough. Somebody mentioned not NATO troops, but troops of NATO countries. It could be either way, actually. It could be NATO troops. It could be troops of NATO countries. What's going on here? Okay. The fact now that Sikorsky is saying this, the Polish foreign minister as well, means Poland, the Czech Republic, and France are together trying to force the issue. My guess is they're probably fighting against Scholz in Germany, and Biden would be the top two. Forget about Hungary. He's an idiot, and he's a authoritarian dictator in Hungary, or wannabe. But as far as, European governments overall, or I should say NATO governments overall, it's, I think, Biden and Scholz, the Americans and the Germans, fighting against the French, the Czechs, and the Poles. It's very interesting. Now, I will say, I'm kind of not sure what's going on. It's a little weird. And what I mean by that is there's talk from some of the defense analysts I follow saying that this is an effort to keep Putin off his game, to keep Putin worrying. And I'm fine with that, but I'm not sure what that accomplishes, right? I mean, my guess is, and actually I was talking to Callum about this earlier too, my guess is we are getting very worried. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit later too, but we in NATO are getting very worried about the future of Ukraine. We know in the last several months, we have heard multiple European defense officials. Thank you, Cello, for the gift, Charles. We've heard multiple European defense officials talk about the possibility of war with Russia, right? Thank you, Lamb Chop. I mean, we've seen several of the British, head of the army. Thank you, Tigger. But a number of the other European countries as well, the defense folks, getting extremely concerned about an increased chance of war with Russia because of the way the war is going in Ukraine. And just a reminder, it is not concern about the fact that we are involved in Ukraine that is leading to war. It's concern that Putin is winning in Ukraine, and that will embolden Russia to now attack NATO afterwards, to attack NATO countries, because they're winning in Ukraine, they've tasted blood, and they want more, basically. But we've seen a number, right? Because you guys know what I'm talking about. We kept hearing, the British military talking about conscription, right? All these different stories coming up. Oh, thank you, Tigger, Aflac. All these stories coming up, right? And I think that mixed with this concern now about putting troops in Ukraine, there is concern that Ukraine could be lost. There is concern. I believe it was Macron of France this week, the president, came out and said that one scenario of putting troops in would be if Kyiv were to be in danger, the Ukrainian capital. If Odessa, the big city in the south, thank you, Adventures, the big city in the south were to be put into danger by the Russians. Thank you, Chazak. And I'm still working on this sort of a theory here, but I think there is a larger perception of concern that in a few years, Russia could take Ukraine, like all of Ukraine. And the Poles are not happy about that. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Joe. The Poles are not happy about that. The Baltic states are not happy about that. The Czech Republic, which is not bordering Ukraine, but very close to bordering Ukraine, right? Thank you, Marie. And the French are not worried about that. Are worried about that. Anyway, I'm just kind of putting it out there, but it's got me this whole thing has me very worried. And it's not going to get any better when I read the foreign policy story or the foreign affairs story later today. Thank you, Lise. Kyiv Independent. I got more. So you guys mentioned yesterday, I did a little more research on this, and the U.S. Embassy in Moscow and the British embassies in Moscow, both of them have put out warnings to people, to their nationals, to British and American nationals, saying, be very careful in the next 2 days. Do not go to any public events, to concerts, because there are reports of a threat of extremists basically doing a terrorist attack in Moscow. Now, at the same time, thank you, Aflac, for the gift. Who is that? L? Thank you, L, for the gift. At the same time, this is in Moscow. At the same time, the Russian security folks, the FSB, their internal security people, say that they thwarted a potential Islamic State terrorist attack on a Moscow synagogue. Now, that could be what the threat was. I think we should also consider that there is also the threat that Putin is making this up. Putin's election is next weekend, in a week. He's going to be elected resoundingly because Russia is a dictatorship. It's not going to be a fair election. It never is. But nonetheless, Putin seems it's interesting. As a dictator, he's very worried about appearances. And he's very worried about the whole issue of this appearing to be that he really wins the election by a big amount, right? And there is certainly the possibility, I think I mentioned this last night, the possibility that Putin will fake a terrorist attack to try to rally people around him. He's done false flag operations before. He's done it in Ukraine. He killed a number of Ukrainian prisoners of war back in, I think it was 2022, actually even. It was the Azovstal defenders, the Azov guys and gals, that he blew them up in a prison. They were in a prison in eastern Ukraine under Russian control, and the Russians killed them. They blew them up. And they tried to blame the Ukrainians using HIMARS, and it was totally a lie. The UN even said it was a lie. As Blue Ariel just said, thank you, Nicholas. As Blue Ariel just said, there were the apartment bombings back in 1999 in Moscow and two other Russian cities that many people think Putin orchestrated. Basically, Chechen terrorists blew up 4 apartment buildings in Moscow. Moscow and 2 other Russian cities back in 1999, 3 months before the presidential election, when Putin was already prime minister, but he was running for president, which is the big job. And what do you know? There are massive terrorist attacks. Putin comes to the rescue, and thank you, Raul, his handling of the terrorist attacks gives him this landslide victory to become president, and the rest is history. Putin becomes president for life. A lot of folks think, including one of the, I think it was, I'm not going to say his name correctly, Litvinenko, you know who I mean, one of the guys that Putin poisoned, who defected, I think he defected to the Brits, said that he was convinced it was Putin and the secret police that basically did this, that they blew up. So it could be Putin. We don't know. Thank you, Mustang. Could be a real terrorist threat too. I mean, who knows? Zelensky arrived in Turkey today, which isn't bad, to meet with Erdogan, his counterpart. Thank you, Elle, for the gift on TikTok. Thank you, Mustang Sally, as well. And Mustard. Hey, Mustard. Good to see you. Zelensky's in Turkey, which is good. The Turks, I guess, are helping make some corvettes, they're called, some sort of small military boats that the Ukrainians buy or have or whatever. So he visited some of those facilities. So, again, always good. Relations with Turkey important because Turkey kind of plays a little friendship game with Moscow, so it's important. Thank you, Ellie. British Defense Secretary Shaps visited Kyiv today, also very important. Thank you, Desi for the heart on TikTok. Actually, I'll do a quick little look and thank a few more of the subscribers because I don't do that enough and I really should. Deb, Ash, of course, on TikTok, other subscribers, Mustard, L. These are my monthly subscribers. Everybody else feel free to join as well. Jeff, Christopher, Lorianne, Flower Lady, Allie, Blue Ariel, looking back here, Chazak, Manda. I think I don't want to go back too far. I'll be here all day, but thank you guys. Thank you all. And thank you for the gift. Who was the gift that just, actually I'm seeing Big Hawk and Timothy, Christopher. Thanks, Christopher. Oh, and a couple gifts here. Some roses from L, Remdog, Luisa with the gift. Thank you guys. Miguel. Thanks guys. Appreciate it. Let me keep going here. Trump. Oh yeah. So Trump today, Trump met with Viktor Orban. So the wannabe dictator of Hungary, who's basically an authoritarian. I've always said, I think Orban would be very happy if the Soviet dictatorships were back, when Hungary was part of the Warsaw Pact, when basically the country was a Soviet dictatorship. It was, independent of Moscow, but it wasn't. It was a satellite of Moscow. Horrific dictatorship. Orban, I think, wants it back. Thank you, Joe. He's horrible. He's gone back on press freedoms to the point where the European Union has withheld money from him because he's gone so far back on democracy. Well, of course, big surprise, he's big friends with Donald Trump because Donald Trump likes Putin's friends. Orban is a big friend to Putin. Orban hates NATO. Orban hates the European Union. Orban hates Ukraine. Orban loves Russia and loves Putin. He sides with Putin pretty much in the war in Ukraine. He's siding with Putin. And who else sides with Putin? Donald Trump. So Trump loves Orban. And sadly, the Republicans actually have been it's been very bad, actually. Thank you, Cello, for the gift again. It's been really bad. LinkedIn. You should not send me money via LinkedIn. I don't know how that works. You mean the link tree? You mean the link tree, Vicky? The link that's in my profile on TikTok. Yeah, that's Linktree. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Any case, the Republicans here have been, thank you, Vicky, have been really sucking up to Orban, our Republican Party, because they love what he's doing in Hungary. And again, Orban is a wannabe dictator. Hungary is an authoritarian state now. I saw one analysis, thank you, Tom, like 6 or 9 months ago that said that it was an analysis of like democracy in Europe and said that you can no longer consider Hungary a democracy. I mean, that's how bad it's gotten, guys. And this is the place that Donald Trump is sucking up to. So, of course, Trump invites him to the U.S. and he comes and visits Trump, of course, because this is what, and again, I bring it up because if MAGA would stop being anti-American, if MAGA would stop sucking up to America's enemies and caring more about America's enemies than America, if MAGA would stop attacking democracy and defending authoritarianism, I would stop talking about MAGA. But there's a serious chance that man's going to be president and he's sucking up to authoritarian dictators because that's who he wants to be. And that is really screwed up, and no good American should be supporting that kind of stuff or that kind of candidate. I'm sorry. All right, let's go on. The Indians, this is a crazy story. The Indian government has accused the Russians of kidnapping Indian nationals and forcing them into the Russian military in Ukraine. So this group of Indian men decide, like idiots, to go to Moscow on vacation for New Year's. It was December 27th of this year, a couple of months ago, I mean. They fly to Moscow thinking, Moscow, New Year's, what could be more fun? Yeah, what could be more fun? Pyongyang, maybe. So they fly to Moscow. Their tour guide says, oh, here's a great, of course, what kind of idiots do you have to be too? The tour guide goes, have I got a deal for you? Let's go to Belarus. The other dictatorship that's in the area, okay? Let's go to Belarus, and I can get you there without a visa. And the Indian guys go, yay! Belarus is a freaking dictatorship as well, just as bad as Russia. If not, actually, Belarus might even be worse than Russia in terms of a dictatorship right now. So they go to Belarus. Their guide abandons them. Honestly, I think this whole thing was a setup by the Russians and the Belarusian government. Their guide disappears. They're stuck in Belarus. The local Belarusian police arrest them, hand them over to the Russians, and the Russians make them sign a document in Russian that none of the men can read that says, you will either go to prison for 10 years or you will fight for the Russian army in Ukraine. So the next thing the guys knows, they're in Ukraine fighting fighting with the Russians. They got a Twitter video out this week begging the Indian government for help. And the Indian government, thank you, Chazak, came out today and said the story is correct. The Indian government was livid. I heard this story and I was like, get out of here. This can't be true. The Indian government came out today and said this. There's a video from one of the Indian, ministers or whatever saying, but how screwed up is this? How freaking screwed up is this? And Joe, I don't know what you're on, but no, every country in the world is not a dictatorship. Actually, most countries in the world are not dictatorships. Russia is. So let's not even, and on the corruption index, Russia is number 140 out of 180. So they're pretty darn down, and they're a dictator. America isn't a dictatorship. No European country is a dictatorship other than wannabe Hungary is turning into a dictatorship, but they're not totally one yet. He wants to be. Asia, free Asian countries, China, of course, but free Asian countries are not dictatorships. The Asian democracies are not. Lots of countries. Don't make excuses for the Russians because Russia's a dictatorship. We don't make excuses for them on this show. Thank you, Pedro. The Russians are, in fact, that desperate for troops, Jens. Somebody had mentioned, and you are correct, somebody on YouTube mentioned Nepal. The Nepalese also recently got furious with the Russians for doing something similar with Nepalese citizens. The Russians also were advertising in Serbia. Remember, the Wagner group, the mercenary group, was advertising in Serbia. And even the Serbian government that is super pro-Russian got pissed and publicly criticized the Russians. Right, actually the Cubans did. You're right about that, Ali. The Cubans did too. They tried the same thing in Cuba, and the Cuban government, which is even more pro-Russian, also criticized the Russians publicly over it, which I thought was kind of fascinating. Anyway, yeah, Russia's that desperate. It's really screwed up. All right, now, for the last part of the show, this may go on for a bit, but I want to read you some paragraphs from Dara Masikot's article in Foreign Affairs. She is a Russian expert with the Carnegie Endowment, a big international kind of think tank. I never quite know how to define Carnegie or Carnegie, depending how you pronounce it. Foreign Affairs is one of the oldest American foreign policy publications, very respected. And she wrote a piece about basically where things stand in Ukraine. I want to read you a little bit. Again, it may be a few minutes, but I think it's a good read, and I want to read you some of this. 2 years after Russia's invasion, Ukraine and its Western supporters are at a critical decision point and face a fundamental question. How can further Russian advances on the battlefield be stopped and then reversed? After capturing the ruined city of Avdiivka in Ukraine, Russian forces are moving forward fitfully in other areas along the front. Russian advantages in manpower, materiel, and defense production have grown in the past year, whereas U.S. support of ammunition deliveries have been throttled and are at risk of being curtailed almost entirely because of an impasse over funding in the U.S. Congress. Supplies of critical munitions for frontline Ukrainian units are dwindling, and soldiers are being forced to ration. Some units are experiencing significant manpower shortages. The current battlefield dynamics have no single cause. They are mostly rooted in decisions that were made since the fall of 2022. When Russia mobilized its war economy, the West did not, and Ukraine could not. When Russia constructed a network of defensive fortifications hundreds of miles long and multiple layers deep, Ukraine did not. Russia obtained more than 1 million, by some estimates 3 million, artillery shells and thousands of drones from its partners Iran and North Korea. The West could not match that, having already reached the bottom of the barrel of similar resources. Moscow has gone to great lengths to regenerate personnel and replenish its armed forces, whereas Kyiv has yet to fully mobilize. Without a surge in Western military aid and major changes to Kyiv's strategy, Ukraine's battlefield position will continue to worsen until it reaches a tipping point, possibly by this summer. This is why I'm reading this to you. There's more. She's afraid that we could reach a tipping point already by this summer, where basically the war starts to go so badly that we may not be able to come back from it. I'm going to read more of this. This is Dara Masikot, who is a very well-known Russia expert, previously with Rand Corporation, now with the Carnegie Endowment, writing in Foreign Affairs magazine. On the present course in which Ukrainian ammunition and manpower needs are not met, Ukrainian units are likely to hollow out, making Russian breakthroughs a distinct possibility. But this is no time for despair. Because she says this and you're kind of like, but this is no time for despair. It is time for urgent action. Russian forces have vulnerabilities that can be exploited and advantages that can be eroded over time, but only if Ukraine gets what it needs now. When Ukrainian forces are sufficiently manned, supplied, and entrenched, they have shown that they can inflict high costs on Russian forces and frustrate Russia's ability to convert its on-paper advantages into decisive gains. The battle for Avdiivka is the most recent case in point. Using frequent airstrikes and committing up to 30,000 men across a dozen units, Russia still needed 5 months to capture the ruined town. Russia wanted Avdiivka badly, and it got Avdiivka badly. In the course of the siege, Russia lost more than 600 armored vehicles and likely thousands of soldiers. Some people think Russia lost as many, by the way, as 30,000 soldiers, taking this little town of 30,000 people. I mean, it was crazy. The heavy losses underscore that Russia's offensive capabilities are still deficient when trying to overwhelm prepared Ukrainian defenses. I thought that was an interesting point. she's saying that as bad as things are, Ukraine did have sufficient forces to defend Avdiivka. And what happened? Russia had to spend a horrific price in men and equipment to take one little town. So that basically, when provided with the weapons they need, the Ukrainians are able to defend themselves. The West has not kept pace with Russia's ammunition production. The erosion of Russia's equipment and ammunition advantages will matter. She then goes on, and I'll tell you real quick. Thank you, Tiger Pup. She talks about ammunition, which I mentioned earlier, how the Russians are producing much more artillery than the West and getting artillery from Iran and North Korea and possibly Iran as well. Whereas the West is having a shortage of ammunition right now. The erosion of Russia's equipment and ammunition advantages will matter. Real quick. Then she talks about but Russia will not have ammunition forever. Russia is using a bunch of their old, tanks from museums and things, and tanks that they had put on storage, like from World War II. They're refurbishing a bunch of those because they don't have enough equipment. But her point is, at some point, that's going to start to limit them because they're going to have older and older equipment, etc., right? So in other words, if we can keep supplying Ukraine, Russia, within about 2 years, Russia starts having some shortages as well. But, and she makes an excellent point here, the erosion of Russia's equipment and ammunition advantages will matter very little if Ukraine is not resourced to defend itself in 2024. It will not matter if Soviet-era tanks are less capable and survivable if Ukraine is not given the supplies to destroy them. It will not matter if foreign artillery shells, in other words, artillery shells from North Korea, have a higher dud rate than domestic versions if Russian forces can maintain a firepower advantage of around 5-1 over Ukraine and Western production and delivery delays continue. In other words, it doesn't matter if half the shells that the Russians get from North Korea don't work if Russia has 10 times as many shells as Ukraine, because then it means they'll have 5 times as many shells as Ukraine, right? So they'll still have an advantage. It will not matter if Russian long-range precision strike missile production has reached its zenith, or if, as Ukrainian officials say, Western sanctions are reducing the quality of Russian missiles if Ukraine is not equipped to defend its skies. So again, if the Russians are producing, worse and worse quality missiles because of the computer chips that they can't get because of sanctions, they still have missiles. And if Ukraine runs out of defenses, those missiles are still going to kill people. They just may not be as precise, but they're still going to kill people. In this worst-case scenario, Russian heavy bombers could be used to destroy Ukraine's cities and critical infrastructure. Final paragraph that I'm reading to you. To hold their positions in 2024, Ukrainian forces need to urgently replenish their ammunition and manpower. If reinforcements are coming, Ukraine can defend the front line this year and regenerate combat strength while the West's industrial base ramps up for 2025 and beyond. Western military assistance, specifically American aid, and she talks a lot about American aid, basically saying there's no way Europeans can do this alone. And American aid must be approved quickly to sustain critical ammunition supplies and to maintain existing combat systems. Next, Kyiv must generate and train personnel to replenish frontline units. Unfortunately, finding more soldiers will most likely require an unpopular mobilization. That's sort of the final point she says, which is, look, the Ukrainians, like the Russians, do not want to have a big mobilization. It's not very popular. Your country's on the line. You don't really have a choice. The article, I read you part of it. It's about 3 or 4 times longer than what I read you. So this is in Fiasco. Don't even go there. Don't even go there. People who try to don't get obnoxious about the way to pronounce Ukraine. Well, don't mute the person. All right, Amanda, unmute the person, please. Don't mute the person, but they're just being cocky. They're not being a troll. But they're trying to tell me I'm saying the name Ukraine incorrectly. As I've said many times before, he's been spamming, then that's fine then. Okay, sorry, never mind then. Sorry, Amanda. The name Ukraine is actually pronounced like Ukraina. It's not Ukraine. That's English. So it doesn't really matter how we say it. There's no correct wrong way to say it. Right? It always cracks me up when people say it. It's Ukraine, not Ukraine. Well, actually, it's Ukraina or Ukraini, right? So, In any case, the thing is, guys, I just feel like what's the point? But this is ridiculous, at this point. And I agree with Dara Masako with what she's saying. Thank you, Joe. And thank you for all the gifts that came in. I just didn't want to stop mid-reading this for the gifts, so I appreciate that, guys. I apologize for not sort of jumping in. I'm real quick. Donya had several here. Christine, I'll do a quick thank you. Incredibly tired. Triku. That's a cool, interesting name. Triku had several. Tiger Pup. Okay, didn't want to go back too far here, but thank you, guys. Appreciate that. Who else we got? Jetta, Christine. Thank you, guys. The thing is, we aren't even having a discussion I'm sorry. I think Biden's crazy. I think Biden's absolutely crazy with this. Thank you, Jalea and Frumple and Blue Ariel. Biden thinks the best way to get Ukraine aid is to work quietly with Republicans. And he's working so quietly, no one can hear him. Ukraine isn't even being discussed in America. Biden brought it up last night in his State of the Union. That's nice. But let me tell you, as an American, it's not on the radar. Ukraine's gone. It's like off the radar entirely. I mean, it's on the news, because they're good. They know to report it, but it's not in the American mind at all right now. Biden doesn't talk about it. The Democrats don't talk about it. Literally, the Biden administration every week or two says something. There is zero. What this woman wrote, thank you, Tigger, Aflac, what Dara Mosikote wrote, the Russia expert at Carnegie, what I just read to you, this sort of sense of impending doom if we don't help Ukraine fast, that doesn't exist in America. Thank you, Taylor. No one's even talking that way. All the discussion you see in Europe of military experts saying that there is the potential of war with Russia because we are losing in Ukraine. If we lose in Ukraine, that could lead to war with Russia. That's not even a topic of discussion in our country here. Like literally, nobody talks about that. Nobody even talks about the fact that Ukraine looks like it could be lost. Literally, nobody talks about that. I mean, and I again and again and again, and I will criticize Biden until the day I die. The Republicans are responsible for cutting off Ukraine. Thank you, Monica. America is giving zero to Ukraine right now because MAGA Republicans cut it off because Donald Trump told them to. And it's because Donald Trump is in bed with Putin from Russia and does whatever Putin cares and whatever Putin wants. And he doesn't stand for America. He stands for our enemies. And I'm sorry, this is again and again and again and again. This man has got to stop it, and you people have got to stop defending him because enough of this Russia garbage. We've seen this 100 times. It's gone. And there's no argument about this. I mean, United States, U.S. money's gone. Republicans killed it. It's literally gone. There's no aid going to Ukraine. Thank you, MAGA Republicans. Thank you, Donald Trump. Okay? But, thank you, Joe. But Joe Biden owns this too. Joe Biden never wanted a Ukrainian victory. He always wanted a tie. Joe Biden was afraid of Vladimir Putin, and the Germans and the French governments were also afraid of Vladimir Putin. So they basically, and I've talked about this before, and I think the folks who don't know this get a little confused, but basically, when I say Biden didn't want Ukraine to win, he also didn't want Ukraine to lose. Okay, this is like many things in life. This is complicated and nuanced. From the beginning, Biden, the French, and the Germans were terrified of Russia winning. Right? Russia takes all of Ukraine. They get newly emboldened. Thank you, Tigger, Aflac. They get newly emboldened. They then go after Poland. They go after Estonia, right? NATO countries, right? That basically Russia becomes a full-fledged militaristic dictatorship again by winning in Ukraine, right? So they did not want Russia to win. But they didn't want Russia to lose because Putin has, you've heard this before from Biden at the beginning, especially, Putin has nuclear weapons. We can't get into war. Oh my God, what if he gets angry? Let's not give MiG fighter jets to Ukraine. Beginning of the war, Poland was going to give like 200 MiG fighters to Ukraine. Biden said, no, Putin might get angry, right? Every step of the way, we talked again and again and again about how Putin might get angry, and we worried about it. So we made sure that Ukraine could get back some of its territory, but not all of its territory. I would argue, honestly, the obvious point, Biden did not want Ukraine to get back Crimea. Biden wants Russia to keep Crimea. That's it. Unless Russia gets overthrown and gives it back, Biden does not want Ukraine to go back to Crimea to go back to Ukraine, period. And he made sure that we didn't give Ukraine the weapons they needed to take Crimea back. And the Germans and the French did the same thing, okay? The problem is when we didn't give them the weapons to take back Crimea, and by the way, we dragged our feet. There's a multiple level to this. A, we didn't give them the weapons they wanted. B, we delayed the weapons they needed, even the weapons we gave them. Every step of the way, we said, no, no, no. And then 6 months to 12 months later, we said, okay. So we waited a year. didn't give the damn weapons, and then it was too late. Right? And by the way, once we promised the weapons, we still waited forever, right? We promised the tanks. It took 6 to 9 months for the tanks to get there. We promised F-16s. What are we, going on a year now with the F-16s? Right? I mean, we wait forever with this crap, right? And it gave the Russians time to dig in and the Russians time to basically establish their defenses so Ukraine couldn't. And final point, and this one pisses me off the most. I think I talked about it in a video that I did on TikTok. I don't think I talked about it with you guys. We gave Ukraine all of these weapons for the big counteroffensive, remember? And we all got upset at Ukraine that, it didn't succeed, right? But we gave Ukraine all these tanks and artillery and everything for the big counteroffensive, and Ukraine wasn't able to pull it off. Well, there's a really good reason Ukraine wasn't able to pull it off. We knew they couldn't pull it off because they didn't have the aircraft they needed. And again, I always say, I'm not a defense guy. I'm a foreign policy guy, but the defense people will tell you Ukraine needed planes. They needed F-16s. There's no way Ukraine could have pulled off that count. Literally, the defense experts were saying literally that that Ukraine would be like the first country in modern history to pull off this counteroffensive without air power. Basically, that they wouldn't. I mean, no one could pull this off. NATO couldn't pull this off, right? But we expected Ukraine to pull it off. Thank you, Cindy. And what do you know? Ukraine couldn't pull it off because we didn't give them the damn air power, and it's what everybody had predicted. Okay? So now you have to kind of wonder, right? US, Germany, France, and I blame us as the big three because we were the big three. I mean, Hungary, forget it, right? And the Turks are jerks too, but the Hungarians are pro-Russian, but they're not the ones in charge of this. It was the French, the British, and the French, the Americans, and the Germans. We gave Ukraine all of these weapons and all of this money and all of these tanks, but we intentionally didn't give them the air power, and we knew they couldn't win. Why the hell did we give them this stuff to start with? Seriously. I mean, I almost am sympathetic to the Republican argument. Why the hell did we waste all these weapons and all this money on Ukraine knowing, I mean, again, I always go back to like cancer, right? And imagine you've got cancer and there's a cure. And the cure is 2 drugs. And they're both very expensive drugs, right? Maybe this is America, right? Where things are expensive. They're very expensive drugs. Each drug costs $1 million, right? And you've got to have both drugs. You can't have one drug. They work together. Well, some rich guy steps in and goes, "Oh, I am such a generous man. I will give you the $1 million you need for one drug." And you go, "Well, that's nice, but I don't need one drug. I need 2 drugs." "No, but maybe we should try one drug first." And you're like, okay, so he gives you $1 million, and guess what? The drug doesn't work because it takes 2 drugs. That's what we did to Ukraine. We spent millions and millions and millions of dollars giving them all of these, billions of dollars, giving them weapons we knew wouldn't work because we didn't give them the air power. That is malfeasance. That is ridiculous. Now, again, Republicans didn't want to help anyway, but I really do. I think this, and honestly, Biden still doesn't want to win. I mean, he gets there at the State of the Union last night and says we have to support Ukraine. Really? Do you want Ukraine to win? Really? Are you going to give them the ATACMS long-range missiles that they've been wanting forever? Really? Bullshit. I mean, it's absolute bullshit. No, it's at this point, I've kind of had it. Biden owns this failure. MAGA Republicans own this failure too, but Biden owns this failure too. Biden, Kate, I don't think Biden wants to win. Biden wants to stop Russia. He doesn't want Ukraine to win. He's afraid of Vladimir Putin. He's afraid if Putin loses, then, oh my God. If Putin loses, he's got nukes and who knows what he'll do. If Putin loses, he's got nukes and he's not going to do a damn thing because we've got nukes too. Bingo. So very simple. Manda, go have fun on YouTube. Wah! Wah! No, it just pisses me off because at this point, we knew this was coming, guys. You can't, Biden wants us to be half pregnant. I mean, the Republicans want, let's be clear, the Republicans want to literally hand Ukraine to Vladimir Putin because they're in bed with America's enemy. And the Republicans don't care about American national security. They literally care about America's enemy. That's it. So let's not even go there on them. But on the Democratic side, Biden doesn't want to win this war. He is just as responsible for Ukraine losing this war. And he still isn't on board. I mean, where's Biden's proposal to say Ukraine needs the ATACMS, Ukraine needs this? I mean, honestly, with Biden also not talking about the damn war, He's creating I would say in America at least, there's the sense that Ukraine's already lost this war. In America, I would say this, as far as like the conventional wisdom, like what's in the ether, is Ukraine's like, yeah, they tried, they lost, right? So at least in America right now, because no one's arguing the opposite, it's the sense of, why should we give them money? Well, we're going to give them money we're going to spend a lot of more money just to have a tie, right? What's the point? No, this infuriates, and again, I've been talking about this for 2 freaking years now, and I was right, and it pisses me off that I was right, that we never wanted to win and this was going to happen, you know? I don't know who you are, Too Fast, Too Furious, so I can't let you on real quick. I mean, I just don't know who you are. You could be a troll for all I know, you know what I mean? So, yes, I was, Justin, but that's fine. Anyway, oh my God. Just freaking drives me insane. Absolutely insane. God. That's fine. You guys don't have to agree, but someday you will, because Ukraine's going to lose, and the analysis is going to be that, guess what? We didn't support them. Thank you, Tiger. You know? We never supported them like they needed. And again, every step of the way, guys. I mean, Zelensky even not joked. He even was kind of, about a year ago, Zelensky just got pissed off and finally said, I forgot what weapon system they were asking for. Maybe it was F-16s. Actually, ironically, I think it was F-16s. And he said, rather than saying no and then waiting 6 months and then changing your mind and saying yes, could you just say yes right now? Because this is what we keep doing. And I remember when he said it, because I was like, oh God. like Zelensky's getting a little snippy, right? But he came right out and said, every single weapon system, you know, America and Europe, you tell me no, and then 6 months later you tell me yes once it's too late. So, you know, there. No, it's just, this is ridiculous. And again, ask the military people, because again, they can explain better than I can, what it means to win the counteroffensive on the land without the air power. And by the way, everyone said before the counteroffensive that this can't be done. In the history of the world, it's never been done. You know, or the history of the modern world where there's airfare, of course. You know what I mean? Oh my God. So infuriates me. It just so freaking infuriates me. Ugh. So yeah, I'm worried. I'm very worried about what's happening. And I'm worried because, as I said at the start of the show, I think we're getting closer. We're getting closer to war with Russia. We're not on the verge of war with Russia, no. But we're getting closer. And it's all because Russia is now emboldened because of Ukraine. And frankly, if I were China, this is not the lesson I want China to be taking, which is, hey, get into war with the West, and what happens within 2 years, they'll fall apart. You know, China's a nuclear power, so Biden will be scared. Biden will rally the world. China invades Taiwan. Biden will rally the world, but he'll be afraid because China has nukes. So he won't want to make China too mad. So that'll be the first thing he does. And then after 2 years, the coalition will fall apart. And Donald Trump, of course, if Donald Trump is president, all China has to do is buy him a hotel, give his daughter some patents, and give $2 billion to his son-in-law, all of which happened previously with various countries, and give Trump a hotel, and he'll be fine. Just pay Trump off, and, you know, there won't be war with China at all. I mean, it's absolutely sickening, the situation we're in. And again, what the worst part of it is, we're not defending American interests at all. Like, this is a foreign policy not based on American interests. Jesus Christ. Anyway, on that happy note, let's go to our discussion here. Oh my God. I'm just so pissed off about this. It's a very effed up world. Yeah. But as I said, anybody who's in America, you know, now I will say, you know, someday I want like Manda or Callum to do the show, because then I'll sit here and mute people. It's fun muting people. Anyway. Well, you'd vote for Biden because Donald Trump literally wants to hand Ukraine on a platter to Russia, and Donald Trump literally works for all of America's enemies and doesn't believe he also doesn't believe in democracy and tried to violently overthrow our government. That's several reasons you'd vote for Biden right there. Also, if you don't want women to have to go into alleys to get abortions, you might want to vote for Biden instead of Trump, because Trump got abortion, like, you know, all abortion protections thrown out. And now there's 15 states. I read this the other day. 15 states of our 50 states, 15 of them ban abortion entirely, no exceptions. no exceptions. They're banned entirely because of Donald Trump. So there are a lot of reasons you wouldn't vote for Donald Trump, why you would vote for Biden over Trump. I mean, Biden is a screw up when it comes to Ukraine and foreign policy. I think he's too afraid of Putin, like I said. But on so many other issues, he's still a hell of a lot better than Trump. Like, for example, democracy, which matters to me, but also women and reproductive health. There was a video. I have to do a TikTok on it. There's a video from last summer of the Heritage Foundation, which is the big Republican think tank in Washington. And they were a big Reagan kind of organization, and now they're MAGA. They're Trump now. And one of their people is doing an interview last summer from Heritage. So the big MAGA think tank in Washington, and they're completely tied in with Trump and everybody else. And this woman is doing an interview. It was a woman or a man doing an interview. And she's talking about basically how eventually they need to figure out how to outlaw recreational sex. That's the next thing that Republicans need to work on after they get done banning abortion and everything else and contraception, that they also need to kind of figure out what they can do to, use the government to stop people from having recreational sex. I mean, guys, this stuff is, Google that one because it's crazy. Google Heritage Foundation and I don't want to keep using that phrase and have TikTok make this PG, but Google it. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. There's a video of the woman last summer. Yeah. I mean, absolutely insane. So yeah, there's lots of reasons you'd vote for Biden, even though Biden is kind of crappy on this. Oh my God. Honest to God. Anyway, so yeah, let's do our discussion, hang out, etc. I'm here. What do we got going, guys? Please keep the gifts coming too, as you know. The gifts pay my bills, so I do this full time, so please keep them coming. And thank you. And remember, tomorrow morning we've got our coffee talk with the subscribers on TikTok and YouTube. It'll be on Discord. It's already set up. So when you go to discord.aravosis.com, you'll find it. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Claire. For TikTok, you monthly subscribers, just come on TikTok tomorrow morning. Thank you, Fred. 11 a.m. Eastern time, US. So, but thank you. I'm looking here. Deb. I'm just looking at the TikTok subscribers. Vicky, Elizabeth, Magical, Courtney, Big Hawk, couple Way Mustard, couple Blue Ariel, all right, Ash. I think I've got a lot of. I don't want to go through everybody right now, but thank you, Courtney. I've got a number of you guys. And again, for the YouTube subscribers, the monthly subscribers, thank you, Carrie, Chris QT. I think Manda, or I've got you down as, I never know with Manda because I've got her down as a mod. Maybe she's just a mod. I don't know. But we thank Manda anyway because she's here every day helping. Sally, Carrie, Chris, I said, Michael, I think that's it for the recent ones here. Yeah, yep, I think that's it for for our subscribers. Savannah and Bjorn, exactly. Thank you, YouTubers, as well. My favorite Russian troll is saying goodbye. Who is that? You're not a Russian troll, are you? I don't think you are. Or was somebody else? Oh, yeah, somebody else. People, don't spam. Don't spam, guys. Be nice. Be nice. Oh, thank you, Ben. And Ben Madsen, who just signed up as a subscriber. Thank you, Ben. Very nice of you. I appreciate that. The only thing I always like to remind people, on TikTok, it's easy because just join us on TikTok tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern time, US. And if you're a monthly subscriber, you'll be able to join fine and be able to comment. On YouTube, you've got to actually link, the YouTubers, thank you, Roger, or Robert, YouTubers have to go to Discord. If you want to join us, go to Discord, sign up for free. It's discord.aravosis.com, do the verification, etc. And then go into your settings of your Discord account and link YouTube. So basically you go into your Discord settings and it makes you log into YouTube and it tells Discord and YouTube that you're the same person. So it transfers your subscription information over. So anyway, and I can hear Sasha's little friend in the hallway barking. So after this, hopefully she doesn't hear before the show is over because she'll go crazy. Thank you, Christopher. But we'll play with them afterwards. Anyway, oh my God. So yes, I'm really getting more and more worried about all of this. I think the world is getting to be substantially more dangerous because we are letting Russia, it's exactly what we said, which is if Russia is not stopped, they're going to get more emboldened. And I think you're now seeing, at least in Europe, you're seeing that discussion. You're not seeing it in America. Thank you, Vicky. You're not seeing it at all in America. Thank you, Laura, for the hearts. Oh boy, I can hear her friend in the hall. She's going to hear it soon. She's going to hear it. Vacation? Yeah, well, tell me about it. Actually, I'm going on vacation. I'm going to Asia next month. My nephew's wedding. I'm going to Singapore and Bali. Thank you, running. So I'll do some, let's see what I do. I may or may not be doing anything for the 2 weeks that I'm in Asia. I may just be doing videos on TikTok, but they may be, this is Bali fun videos. You know what I mean? Exactly. I'll be doing a beach live and things like that. Exactly. Thank you, Alex. So let's see. Thank you, Martin, and running as well. So I will get my vacation next month. Yeah, exactly, Luna. Singapore. You mean China? Remember that crazy Senate hearing? I'm from Singapore. So China. No, Singapore. Different. So China. Nope, different country. Different country. Oh my! Lots of Russians in Bali. Oh, were they escaping to Bali too? I mean, I know. Remember, they were escaping to was it Sri Lanka when they decided to have the whites only party? You know, if the Republicans cut off TikTok, then I'm in trouble. Then we just do YouTube and some of the other services, and we hope to God. Thank you, Janice. It's a horrifically long flight. Yeah. I did. I bought Economy Plus because at least I've flown to Asia a couple times actually, and it's just a horrific flight. Oh my God! But I bought Economy Plus because I thought at least hey Pishka, how are you? At least, or Rishka, depending. I'm gonna guess that's a Pishka. I don't remember the flight time. It's bad though, and basically, yeah, I'm flying via. I'm going from Chicago, so Chicago to Taipei because it's a Taiwanese airline. It's supposed to be very good, Ava or something. They're supposed to be very good, and then from there to Singapore. But it's very long. I don't even remember the flight time. It's long. Well, let me ask her, Alexa, what's the flight time from Chicago to Singapore?
From Chicago to fly to Singapore, it'll take about 18 hours and 56 minutes.
Oh, no, not direct. Wait, Alexa, what's the direct flight from Chicago to Taipei? How long does it take? Alexa, how many hours is it to fly from Chicago to Taipei direct? Is it 11, you think?
Chicago to fly to Taipei City, it'll take about 15 hours and 20 minutes.
They're saying 15 hours on Alexa. 11 is a bit short, I think, Deb. They're saying 50. It's not 11. I've flown to Tokyo. It was 14 to go to Tokyo. Yeah, I think she might be right at 15. I've done these flights before. You have not experienced a long flight until you fly 15 hours. It's horrific because you basically sleep on the flight. You'd stay up a bit. You read, maybe you get a meal, then you go to bed. A couple hours, you wake up. You try to go back to bed a couple hours. You read. You try to go to bed a couple hours. And you've now slept 3 times. You've read more than enough, right? You've played on your phone. And you've got that, like for me, I get that just gross feeling that I get flying because they play with the pressure on the plane. They increase the pressure because it makes you sleepy. For me, it just gives me a headache and makes me like slimy. And all of that happens. You look at your watch, or no one wears watches anymore. You've got another 7 hours to go. That's the worst part. You will be on this plane forever. You'll be sick and tired of this plane. You're sick of reading. You're sick of computer games. You're sick of sleeping. And you'll have another 5 to 7 hours to go. And you'll be like, I want to kill myself. It's horrific. JFK to Manila is 16. Yeah, it's just horrific flying to Asia. So that's why I decided to pay more for Economy Plus. Because I was like, it's only 11 hours to Israel? From where? From the U.S.? I'm surprised, though. I know. I thought of Bahrain. Although I don't know whether Bahrain from Chicago might not have been made the most sense. But anyway, I mean, because I'm gonna drop Sasha in Chicago, so I had to go via Chicago. I couldn't go via DC or New York. I mean, I could, but it would have been more of a pain. Thank you, adventurers. So it's okay. It's okay. It's a really long flight, and I've done it before, and twice to Asia, and I don't want to do it again. Well, that's what I mean. It's like 14, exactly. Pedro's saying 14 hours. It's just, also for me, like when I fly, the pressure affects me. You know, it feels gross. My sister's going to take care of her, actually, Ash. The pressure feels, I get a headache. I get, like I said, my skin gets oily. It's just this whole horrible, like I need a shower in the middle of the flight, basically, when I fly. Actually, what I will do though is I'm going to bring like a change of clothes on my carry-on. That I'm doing. Because and like some the ready wipes. I'm gonna do like a shower in the bathroom, I think, before I land, just to feel the baby wipes, just to feel a little bit better. You know, it's so disgusting, so disgusting. Ugh. Anyway, gummy bears. That's funny. And I mean, I've got sleeping pills and all that kind of stuff. I was just saying, cool. It's funny. I was saying it right before I saw your comments. Cool. You know, I'll do sleeping pills, which will help. But I mean, still. You know, it's like, oh my God. Oh, let me get this one, guys. There we go. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Oh, you're even gonna get a scream on that one. Wah! Anyway, yeah, snacks. Although, I mean, let's hope the flight has enough stuff with the food and everything else. You know what I mean? I'll probably bring some snacks anyway, just to be good. You know, but at least, like I said, thank God I'm doing the economy plus, because I've done both other times I did regular. Oh, and I did regular economy to Asia. Oh my God. I'm going to Singapore and Bali for my nephew's wedding. He's going to have a wedding in Bali. But I'm not really a drinker though. And I'm not convinced alcohol is not supposed to be great for sleeping and everything else. But yeah, going regular economy too, you know, your butt hurts. Also, as you get older, it's just harder to sit. Like I'm not 18 anymore, you know? I mean, oh my God. Yeah. Anyway. Ooh la la. 8 hours from Montreal to Athens. That's not bad. Although the flight back is pretty bad. 8 hours. That seems kind of quick. Or maybe the flight back is like 10. I remember the flight back being not great. Like 10 or more, isn't it, Andre? It probably is an extra hour and a half, maybe. I'm trying to remember. Maybe. Aeroflot. I've flown Aeroflot. That was a terrifying experience. I flew Aeroflot when it was this. Does Aeroflot still even exist? I flew Aeroflot when it was the. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. They cracked me up. They're doing that weird. TikTok must be getting, like I said, a lot of those fake. It goes, we have detected inactivity and we are ending your live in a minute. It's like inactivity. What inactivity? Anyway. So yeah. Well, we'll be, like I said, I don't know. We'll see what I do. I'm not convinced in Bali I'm going to be in the mood to do a Ukraine update, to be honest. I don't think so. And with the time change, God, what time is it? Alexa, what time is it in Bali?
In Bali, it's 8:07 a.m.
Okay, so they're 13 hours ahead. So literally it's going to be the opposite. So it's going to be, whatever time it's going to be is going to be a mess anyway. You know what I mean? If I do mornings, it's evening in America. If I do evenings, it's morning in America. Afternoons means middle of the night. So it's going to be very difficult to do any of these shows for you guys in the U.S. Yeah. Yeah, an Aeroflot. No, I have funny Aeroflot stories for not for tonight. It's already getting late, but for another day. I wish I was doing business. It's too expensive. Yeah. It's too expensive. I'm doing economy plus because it's the most I could. Ozzy, you need to give it a rest. You kind of went on a little rampage last night too. Give it a rest. I'm not even, and I freaking hate that issue to start with, and I've been avoiding it because I think it's a bunch of crazies. So I know I said it and I still believe it, but you need to give it a rest. Because obviously I'm not feeling like getting into it. So, because I think they're a bunch of nut jobs, and if I talk about it, it's only going to bring the issue back up again. So, dancing on the table and breaking plates. Yes, that always drives me nuts. In Perth, I know Australia. I've got a distant relative in Melbourne that we became friends in the last several years online. That, one of those DNA tests. But interestingly enough, because he knows his family tree. Thank you, Brigitte. He knows his family tree. We were able to figure out the connection going back to like my great I think we have a common, yes, we have a common great grandfather, I think, or great. But my family tree goes back far enough, and his does too, that we were in Greece, we were able to figure it out, which was kind of fun. So I would like to meet, it would be fun to meet him and the family, just kind of a crazy thing, you know? Thank you, Maxime. You know? Yeah, no, traveling's always fun. You meet people on the plane, you meet people, I'm terrible at keeping in touch with people, of course, but you meet neat people when you're over there. You know, I mean, traveling is always fun. Biden did his State of the Union last night, which is the big speech I was telling you guys. I did get a window seat for this. Yeah. It's one of those 2-seater thingies. No, Tlaib wasn't the one who yelled, was it? No. We know that Marjorie Taylor Greene yelled at Biden during the State of the Union. I don't think Tlaib. I don't think so. Let me look. I doubt it was her. No way. We know Marjorie Taylor Greene did. No, Biden gets the cold shoulder. Ooh, she gave him the cold shoulder. Ooh, scary. America's socialists don't like Biden. I'm telling you, when it comes down to, they all wore keffiyehs. How cute. Well, that's sweet. No, I just, whatever. Don't get me going. Oh, geez. They declined to join several chants of 4 more years. Oh, my. Okay, whatever. And again, this is the socialist squad, and I get it, but socialists are never going to have the run of the Democratic Party because we're going to lose every election if we end up becoming a socialist party, because that stuff doesn't fly in America. It just doesn't. It may fly with a bunch of you, I get it, but in America, that stuff does not fly. So daylight savings time. Oh, no, that's coming again? Oh, no, we're back to that again. Alexa, when does the time change? No, this weekend? Oh, Jesus Christ. Again? Although I guess, okay, actually, I shouldn't say that. This weekend is good because we get extra time. That's not so bad. Now, what I don't like is it screws up the sun, so all of a sudden then I get sunlight coming in during the show. So once we do the time change, I've then got to start closing the curtain every night before the show, and I hate that. It drives me crazy. And it also is ugly. Like it's prettier with the sunset. I think with the curtain closes, it's kind of ugly. But yeah, in any case, sure there are, Will. AOC is a socialist. Tlaib, I'm pretty sure is. All of those guys are. The whole squad. Most of them are DSA. They're absolutely socialists. Absolutely. Oh my God, the response. Oh my God. So yeah. Okay. State of the Union. I watched part of it because I hate watching. I find those things boring. It actually was better than I thought in a way. So, okay, Biden was yelling. He was. Republicans said he was yelling. He was. People should Democrats kind of need to get over themselves sometimes. Republicans do too, because it's like, oh, don't criticize. Biden was yelling. He shouldn't have been yelling, but he was energetic. He was energized. He was overcompensating, I think, by yelling, but he was clearly not sleepy. There were several times that Republicans kind of started, yelling, heckling him, which, by the way, we do not do in America. Every State of the Union now, Republicans are doing it. They started doing it under Obama, and now under Biden, it's terrible. And they heckle. This is something we don't do in America. The State of the Union is a kind of serious, solemn affair, and now you've got Republicans heckling every State of the Union. It's just one more aspect of our democracy kind of degrading, but they were heckling. Biden responded to the heckling actually very well. Like he was kind of on top of it, giving back to them, which was good and smart. The speech pissed off the Republicans because it was a very good speech. The brooms got picked up, Jason. Sorry, well, I've only got one now. The brooms did get picked up. The speech itself was very good because it put Republicans on the defensive. The Speaker of the House, who's a Republican, is sitting. So behind Biden, you've got the Vice President, right, Kamala Harris, and the Speaker of the House, the Republican. And it always is a weird situation for the Speaker of the House because the president will be saying partisan things or legislation the Republicans don't like, and he's got to sit there not clapping. Well, the problem is Biden did such a good job in the speech of bringing up things like, again, women's health, abortion, even Ukraine, but wrapping Ukraine in America and democracy, talking about democracy, talking about the insurrection, but in a way that it just made it look bad that the Republicans weren't clapping, because he's talking about in America, I'm making this up, but basically, in America, our democracy matters. We should all stand for democracy. And you see, the Democrats standing and the Republicans aren't standing and they aren't clapping for democracy. And you're like, what? And they're not standing and clapping for women. I mean, it made them look bad. That was a very effective use of the speech. Very effective use. Again, he was yelling and screaming. He was. And I don't think the yelling and screaming came across very well. He looked super old. He did. Yes. The Republican response was probably the most horrific thing I've seen of a response in my life. Was that her name, Katie Britz? She's a senator. I didn't even know she was, I have to admit, I didn't know she was a senator. Senator from Alabama. And the Republicans, basically, the opposition party always gives a speech after. So the State of the Union is the big annual address, right, to Congress. And the opposition party then gets 20 minutes or 15 minutes to give their response. And it's pre-taped, and the networks always agree they will show that response as well. This woman gets up there, and hold on, I'm going to pull this up. I've got a copy. She's the senator from Alabama. They have her do the speech in her kitchen, I guess because she's a woman. I mean, they literally had her do it in her kitchen. And you're like, oh, that's an interesting move when we're, trying to when Democrats are trying to make this election about women, right? She's in her kitchen, and she is the strangest speaker you have ever heard in your life. I'm going to show you the close-up and then play this really quick. So this is the close-up of her, but look at there's her kitchen. It also is kind of the most immaculate kitchen I've ever seen. Like, I know you don't want it dirty, but something about this kitchen felt fake to me. I was just sort of like, who lives in this kitchen? You know what I mean? Like, okay, well, check this out so you guys can see. It's always a little out of focus for you all. It's just a little weird. The kitchen's a little too, it should be clean. But, so this is about a minute worth. I want you to listen to this and you'll, hang on a second. Hang on.
Undercutting America's.
Okay, oh my God. Wait, stop. Wait, there it is. Okay.
Meanwhile, the Chinese Communist Party is undercutting America's workers. China is buying up our farmland, spying on our military installations, and spreading propaganda through the likes of TikTok. You see, the CCP knows that if it conquers the minds of our next generation,
I know, she's crying.
It conquers America. And what does President Biden do? Well, he bans TikTok for government employees, but creates an account for his own campaign. Y'all, you can't make this stuff up. Look, we all recall when presidents faced national security threats with strength and resolve. That seems like ancient history. Right now, our commander-in-chief is not in command. The free world deserves better than a dithering and diminished leader. America deserves leaders who recognize that secure borders.
Yeah, you get the idea. And she literally is doing the fake. What really gets me is she's very accomplished at making her voice crack so she sounds like she's crying. And now I'm kind of, and America deserves. But the people were just kind of like, now I'd actually be curious, because obviously Democrats don't like her because she's a Republican and all that. I would be curious, like people who are truly independent, who maybe don't like Biden, but don't like Trump, what they think when they see this. You mean like what they would, now I will say, CNN did a poll right off the bat. Thank you, Wood Warlock. CNN did a poll, and something like 67% of the people watching the video, watching the State of the Union, liked it. They agreed with Biden. They thought what he was proposing was good for America. So at least the initial polls were very good. I don't know. I should look right now and see. But I'm curious what they thought of her. You know what I mean? Like people in the, because again, you know, I lean left and so, on those kind of things so that I wouldn't like her anyway. I'm just, like I said, State of the Union poll. I'm curious, truly someone in the middle who isn't a lefty, what they would think, you know? Let me pull this up really quick to see, like I said, State of the Union poll. Washington Post, here we go. Democrats would like to believe, Biden's campaign and some media outlets have pointed to a post-speech instant CNN poll showing 65% of viewers offered a positive review. Viewers also shifted 17 points towards believing the country is headed in the right direction from 45% to 62% after the speech. Let me see here. Now that's interesting. The 65% who had a positive view of the speech was actually lower than any such speech CNN had polled in the past quarter century. Now that's interesting. So basically they're saying that 65% was good, but it's sort of the worst showing for State of the Unions in the last 25 years. And the 35% who offered a very positive review was effectively tied with Biden's speech last year, 34%. For the lowest on record. Okay, so basically, interesting. Okay, fair enough. So Washington Post is saying that, yes, it was still good results, but for State of the Unions, it wasn't great. I would also kind of say that we're in trouble anyway as a country. I'm not sure you're ever going to get numbers again of anything, you know? But no, I mean, like I said, I thought he was old, but I thought he was good. It was a good speech. He's old, but I also don't care that he's old. Like, I mean, I just don't. Like, I care in a general sense. Like, I don't want somebody dead being president, you know? But again, I always say, like, I'd rather have old than the guy that tried to overthrow the government. I just think, I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not going to vote in some Soviet clone, some guy who's in cahoots with Putin who literally tried to violently overthrow the government. I mean, and Kamala Harris, the same thing, you know? Like, I'd rather have Nikki Haley than Donald Trump. I mean, like anybody. I'd actually even rather have Ron DeSantis than Donald Trump. Even DeSantis, who I think is awful on everything, and very anti-democratic in his own way. He's still better than Trump. Trump is a unique danger. He is a unique danger. So yeah, the old guy. And again, bottom line too, by the way, I'm sorry, but as I said, unfortunately, you know, it's, yeah, witchy. I know it's bad. You know, unfortunately, all the age stuff, I mean, not just this, Biden, like everything sticks to Biden. Biden gets blamed for everything. You know, the economy, and I mean, I'm sorry, the economy is doing very well. Not everyone's doing well. I got news for, this drives me kind of crazy too. Not everyone. Okay, duh. I mean, like, okay, this is an epiphany. This is the first year that not everyone is doing well. I mean, that's a given, right? We live in a capitalist system. We don't live in Star Trek. Not everyone is doing well. That's always the case. That does not mean that the economy is not doing historically well, better than it's doing in decades. It is. But Biden being Biden, it sticks to him like it's anti-glue. So everyone says, oh yeah, the economy is really bad, right? I mean, we just, and I love the Biden hasn't done anything. Biden hasn't done anything? I mean, okay. Putting aside the fact he basically got us out of COVID because Trump had us in COVID and Trump wasn't, other than the vaccine, Trump, and by the way, then after getting the vaccine, then Trump's people, all of Trump's MAGA supporters convinced people not to get the vaccine, you know? But the infrastructure bill, Obamacare, which Trump wants to kill, I mean, it's just, it's like, it drives me kind of crazy. Climate change, I mean, there's like tons of issues Biden has done a ton on. And, you know, and the far left gets upset. Well, okay, great. I'm sorry, but you don't get everything you want, you know? And the students get upset, or the young people get upset that Biden wasn't able to forgive all of their student loans. Well, first of all, suck it up, as far as I'm concerned, because guess what? He's not forgiving my mortgage either. And I paid my student loans. So, you know, but the student loan thing is a touchy issue for me. I do not have I have a sympathy for poor people, and that's it. Everybody else, forget it. You know, everybody else, forget it. You know, you took out the student loans, you can pay them as far as I'm concerned, unless you're poor. If you're poor, totally different story. And we should have, and we do have scholarships, but I'm all for giving student loans to poor people. Absolutely. But everybody else, got news for you. It took me 15 years. I didn't buy this place I'm in now until I was 45 because I had to pay my damn student loans for 15 years. Why the hell should I be paying for your student loans? I really do. I think it's an obnoxious issue. And frankly, it's another little terrorist issue because the far left kind of said, let's convince young people not to vote unless Biden gives them their student loans. And Biden did. And what did they do? The Republicans killed the student loan forgiveness and the young people blamed Biden. And now you've got all these idiots running. And Biden's, by the way, he's still forgiven billions of student loans anyway. He found a way around it. But the young people still go, oh, he didn't forgive all the student loans. I'm just kind of like, ugh. You don't get everything you want, you know? No, it's okay, Jay, but I think, look, we have had, because Jay was saying you want to pay people who don't work. We have already have systems in place for helping people who are poor. I am happy with finding out it's not somebody who's not willing to work, but you basically, there are poor people in this country. We know who they are. We can figure out whether someone's poor or not and put a system in place that we can help them with their student loans. We already do. We already have student loans. We already have student loan programs, by the way, for people who are lower income. So already we've got a system in place that we know that we are able to use to figure out who is needy and who is my mortgage. You know? No, and I'm sorry. I think it's an issue that resonated with kids. I wonder, I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe it does resonate with people in the middle. But I think to me, there's an obnoxious aspect to it because you took the damn loan and you knew you couldn't pay it. I went to a state school because I didn't want to run up my student loans. You know, I got into the University of Chicago undergrad and I didn't go because my dad would have paid. I mean, I would have taken loans too, but my dad I would have taken the max loans I could and then he would have paid the rest. And I wasn't even thinking of my loans. I was thinking of him. I didn't want to make him have to pay. So I went to the state school instead of the University of Chicago, which any of you from abroad may not know it. It's a very good private university, but I didn't do it. You know, I mean, you know, and again, we're in a capitalist system. Not everybody can go to the expensive place. You know, this dude's a centrist. You just figure that out, Will? Like, I'm literally for beating the bejesus out of Russia militarily, and you thought I was a socialist? Seriously? I mean, seriously? Like, I am about as far away from a socialist as an American socialist as you can get. Not even close. So, yeah. I believe in helping people. I don't believe in free handouts, which I think, sadly, some of the folks of your crowd kind of do. They're not very pro-American. And they believe in free stuff, and I'm not a big fan of free stuff because that's not what government is for. Anyway, more. So, well, the thing is, too, you know what's funny? But I find this, too, I mean, well, exactly. Pay your mortgage. I mean, that's exactly the point, you know? Then let's help people with their mortgages. I mean, by the way, more people, and people complain about their student. My student loans, I had $60,000 in student loans 30 years ago. You want to talk about expensive student loans? It was my student loan payment was equal to my apartment payment in Washington for my rent of my apartment. But that's in Washington, which was like one of the 3 most expensive cities in America. I mean, it was that expensive. But you want to talk about student loan burden? Let's talk about mortgage burden. Because people's mortgages, I still owe $250,000 on my mortgage. My mortgage was $375,000. And people are whining about a $30,000 student loan. Mortgages are what get people, you know? I mean, and people are like, I mean, and by the way, mortgages are also a real bitch for people who have kids because you're paying the mortgage and you're trying to put your kids into school. I mean, but you know, whatever. In any case, enough of that stupid issue. I'm going to put that issue with the Arab-Israeli conflict as another issue we're just going to try not to talk about, you know? Well, no, I know. My mortgage is better. My mortgage, because I live in a 1-bedroom apartment, Deb, that helped. My mortgage would be a lot less if my mortgage is not a dream amount. People around the country have much cheaper places than I've got. I lived in Washington, D.C., so my place was crazy expensive for a much smaller apartment, you know? Yeah, but where is here? Where is here? I guarantee you DC is more unless you live in New York or Chicago, or New York or San Francisco are the only two places more expensive than DC. Yeah, Oakland. Okay, but that's San Francisco. Yeah. That's why. LA wasn't expensive, but it's getting expensive now. Because my friend Damien, who you all know, Damien used to live in LA and apartments were cheap. He was telling me, he's like, oh God, I've got a huge apartment, $1,000 a month. And I'm like, $1,000 a month? You know, and I was paying $1,200 for a studio, for a small studio. SF is finally getting cheaper. What? But Oakland's getting more? That's interesting. Oh no, other cities are far from cheap. Chicago's getting, but New York and San Francisco were always the tops. DC was next. And then the other cities. Chicago is finally getting more expensive. Phoenix is getting more expensive. You know, it's whatever. Oh, that's interesting. Wait, till the oil fields closed? Oh, that's interesting. Oh, interesting. Bama guy. So what are you saying? Because, and I'm not really up on what's been going on in Alaska lately, because the oil is going down, the revenues go, basically, are people leaving? Has the population gone down in Alaska now? Because the oil jobs are leaving? And if so, that might, well, the problem with Alaska is that you're so distant. Okay, but Alaska's so distant that I wonder how the economy really would react, because is more people better because things might be even cheaper because of economies of scale? Like you bring in more stuff. Like with fewer people, it's even more expensive to fly stuff up there because now, you know what I mean? Like you're bringing the product up, but you don't have as many customers. I would worry, you know? 1,000 for a 4-bedroom in Indiana? Wow. Wait. Rent around you is 1,800 for a 2-bedroom. Wow, that's nice. I don't even know DC now. I'm gonna guess. I've got a 900 square foot apartment. I'm gonna guess in DC, my apartment probably goes for 3,200, maybe more. It's not less. It could even be more. But I'm guessing. I haven't rented it out in years, but I'm guessing 3,200, probably maybe 3,400. Yeah, it's not less. That's for sure. 2,400 for a 5-bedroom house in San Diego? Get out of here. Really? Oh, that's sick. That is sick. Well, that's true. Then you get places like Jackson Hole or Aspen, which are very unique because you've had such an inflow, I'm assuming California money, you know? Wow. Anyway, that's not, I'm jealous of people who can get like big apartments or big homes, you know? But what do you do? You know, what do you do? 3-bedroom house was 100,000 in Scotland. That's insane. I mean, that's insane. Wow. That's just unheard of. Are you in the middle of nowhere? I don't remember. I mean, you never really told me, Kellum. Are you in the middle of nowhere or no? In Scotland, where you are? Soviet buildings? I'm sure the Soviet rent was probably pretty cheap. Not the middle of nowhere. That's really good, though. Wow. Yeah, Soviet. I am not Ukrainian. No, I'm Greek. Greek American, but Greek. Now, your name. Okay. Tomish? I mean, it's Eastern European, of course. Mitenyeks. Eastern European? Baltic, maybe? Or Czech, maybe? Could it be Czech? Just curious. I'm going to say Tomish? Latvian. Okay. I figured I had a feeling maybe it was Baltic because whenever it's something that I truly can't figure out what it is, it often is Baltic. Yeah. I know because we're just not as familiar with your guys' names that we're always like, oh, what is that? Like your first name, I'm assuming it's the Latvian version of Thomas. I'm guessing, but Tomish, maybe? I don't even know how would you pronounce it in English? Can you like write that phonetically? Just curious. I like all the names. I think the names are interesting up there. 4-bedroom, 2,500 square feet in Greater Toronto. But how much is that? Oh, 1.5 million. Oh, okay. Yeah. I know you need to be prepared in Latvia. Trust me, I know. But yeah, DC has gotten DC has always been expensive. I mean, it's just always, New York is crazy, of course, much worse. But DC was always very bad, you know? Interesting. Anyway. Yeah, paying in 2013, you were paying $4,300 for a 2-bedroom in Lower Manhattan. That makes sense, though. I was paying $3,200 for a 700 square foot studio, or maybe 670 square foot studio in Queens, in Long Island City, in 2016, 2017. And that was, like I said, 700 square feet. So, like, what would that be? 65 meters squared, maybe. And $3,200, which was a lot. That was much more than DC would have been. It was obscene. DC, at that point, DC might have been $2,400 maybe for that, $2,200 for that. I did think $2,400 maybe, whereas New York was, and they raised my rent to $3,500, and that was part of the reason I left New York. I just said, forget it. You know, $3,500 a month is absolutely insane. You know. And what's the point? I mean, I was like, I could move further. People were like, move further out into Queens. And I was like, why the hell do I want to move in the middle of nowhere? Like, if I'm going to be in New York, I want to be near New York. Like, if I'm going to move in the middle of nowhere, I might as well move back to DC or whatever. Bash is asking a serious question. After Sweden, what's Finland's status in NATO? Finland became a member months ago. If that's what you mean. Is that what you mean? Yeah, Finland made it months ago. Yeah. You know, if that's what you mean. Yeah, you're being a little rude, Dom. You are being a little rude. No, you're not. Your tone is the problem. I just read through the text. Your tone is the problem. I will tell you this. The trolls are the people who come here and say things like LOL and that kind of stuff. 99% of the time, sorry, we're having a little fight on YouTube. 99% of the time, that's usually someone who's a jerk that comes and do that. Saying the stuff about your father, saying the stuff about a college being cheaper, all of that is fine. But when you put in stuff like, oh, look at this guy, LOL, literally 99% of the time, that's somebody being a jerk. That's not somebody who's here to kind of discuss stuff. So just if you're not trying to be a jerk, that's fine. Just stay away from that stuff. But that kind of, whenever it's the schoolyard taunt stuff, it's just 99% of the time, it's somebody here to be a jerk. It just always is. So that's why Manda's correcting you. She's right. So just don't do the weird taunting stuff, and you're free to disagree. Did Putin do a reply or remark about Sweden joining NATO? They've been threatening Sweden for a while. I don't know if they threatened anything specific. That's a good question. I don't remember if they threatened anything specific in the last couple days now that Sweden just joined NATO. But they've been threatening Sweden for months. So that's been nonstop. Who is this guy? Why don't you go to my profile, click the Linktree link, and my LinkedIn is there, and you can read all about my wonderful background and education that will wow you, and you'll want to marry me or have your son marry me. Bingo, what Eve just said. Feel free to disagree. Just don't be a jerk. No, that's fine. Yeah, but I also don't want us to beat up on people who disagree. I don't care that he disagrees. Just don't be, but that one comment was just kind of, was jerky. You know, that's the thing. In any case, what else, guys? I think we're going to go, actually, because it's 7:40. We've been doing this for an hour and 40 minutes. So, all right, I'm going to sign off. Remember, tomorrow morning, we've got our coffee talk. So subscribers, join us in the morning. TikTok subscribers, anybody who wants to join last minute, feel free to. You can subscribe on TikTok right now, become a monthly subscriber, support my work. I do it full time, so it's very helpful. But for the TikTok subscribers, join us at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, U.S., and Vlad will be joining us. We'll be talking about our fundraiser, but Vlad, may not be the most upbeat get-together because I know Vlad's getting worried too. Thank you, Felicia. But we'll be here tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern. For you guys on YouTube, same story. Any of the monthly subscribers, join us on Discord. So all of us on Discord, you guys too can become, just remember, if you're a monthly subscriber here, Bash and everybody else, make sure you go sign up on Discord, discord.aravosis.com, and link your Discord account to YouTube so people know. All right, guys. Thank you. And who's that? Christopher. Last minute gifts. Thank you, Christopher. Felicia. I knew there was another gift here. Okay, and Joe and Felicia. I think I got you guys. All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. All right. Let's go and have a good night, guys. Have fun. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you incredibly. And I will see you all tomorrow. All right. What do we do if all hell breaks loose? I don't know. Move to Bali. Move to Canada. Canada's always although Canada's getting a little crazier. Canada's got its little MAGA movement too, so you never know. But I think they're saner than we are. So, no, that's okay, Dom. Guys, leave Dom alone. Leave Dom alone. Look, again, I mean, I like I said, your one comment sounded like you were being mean, but that's why the mods got upset with you. So, mods, leave Dom alone. He's fine. We will all agree. That's why I don't like talking about these topics that we'll talk about tomorrow. Not tomorrow, but Monday we'll talk about stuff we all agree on. All right. Okay. Anyway, thank you, guys, everybody. And I will see some of you, like I said, tomorrow morning. The rest of you I'll see on Monday. Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. See y'all later. Some of you tomorrow. All right. Have a good evening. You guys, good night.